Welcome back to Core Motivations Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Connolly. I'm a certified Enneagram coach and a Symbis marriage coach. If this is your first time here, I want to give you a special welcome. You have stumbled upon an incredible community. And for those returning, thanks again for not only committing to yourself, but committing to growth through this podcast and the information shared. I'm so glad to be back with you all. I truly have missed our time together. How are the last few weeks for you? How's your summer treating you? Okay, maybe some of you don't actually get a summer break, but I don't know, maybe it's the time when you get to take time off, go on vacation, maybe spend quality time with your family. I like to read books and specifically some fun books, so maybe that's something you're doing or whatever could bring some self-care, right? Well, like I just did, we were on vacay, and what a whirlwind vacation this was. We visited or drove through 5 countries in 10 days. You see, because we road tripped with our German family, and I have to brag a little bit. We got to meet our grandbaby girl in person, and she's so cute. She's, well, 6 months old, but officially 7 months old now. And while we were all together, we saw so many great places, talked with some interesting people, and we even saw the police chasing some criminals. Okay, that was not that important, but it was kind of funny and a little strange. And well, it did happen right near the Eiffel Tower in Paris, if you're not familiar with that. And then we met up with our Spain family and we got to stay in Barcelona, which was beautiful and amazing, and Madrid, which is also just amazing. I cannot recommend both of these spots enough. One of the things that I liked about how we traveled was that we stayed in local communities. So we didn't really feel like tourists, although I'm sure we looked like tourists. You know, I found it very interesting, and something we don't experience as Americans is the rich, deep history and the centuries old buildings. So that was really amazing. And there also were some big things I learned over the last few weeks. And I just wanted to share it with you. Family is important. Life truly is short, so don't waste your moments. Meaning, don't take them for granted, even the ones that are hard and uncomfortable. Start by saying what you mean, taking accountability, saying sorry and offering forgiveness as quickly as possible. And if someone hurts you, can I just boldly say, don't try to navigate it by yourself. Go to that person, share your feelings, and give them an opportunity to show up for you. If it doesn't work, try again. Don't give up so easily, and remember, everyone is just doing the best in each moment that they are presented. I also learned that patience and grace are necessary in all situations. Most people, they're aware of how you feel. It's called body language. And I don't hide mine very well. I wear it like a coat. Don't be afraid to say, I need a minute to process, but always come back and let that person know that you'll return and that that's your intention. And remember that this too is fixable, but regret is not. And as I've shared before, mistakes are opportunities. Remember that this is the first time you've been a person in this particular stage of your life. Whether it is being a child, an adult in training, a full-fledged adult, a mother, a father, an aunt, a cousin, a grandpa, a grandma, grace is necessary and a gift to be given, not withheld. And always, always, and I believe one of the most important parts is tell the people you love that you love them. Regardless of the thing that might be happening, it just might be the thing that melts the challenge in front of you and between you away. That was just a little something that I wanted to share that I've learned over the last few weeks. Anyways, here I am, ready to dive back in, jet lag and all. I feel incredibly blessed to have been able to take this trip. And I'm so truly grateful for the opportunity to do it with my husband. I'm so grateful for all his hard work and care for us, his family, that he could make this possible. So thank you. So now that I'm back in the chair, I want to talk about our Enneagram 4s, 5s, and 6s, and how we can show up for them by relating and understanding them. But first, did you check out any of the books I recommended? I personally am loving the Devo that Tyler Zach put out. It's really powerful and encouraging and reminds me of things that maybe in the moment I forgot about. So as we get started today, I read this quote and it made me pause. And I'm not sure how it will resonate for you, but for me, it was a great reminder. Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Let me read that again. Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Judy Garland said that. You are the only one that can be you, the special and unique way that you can be, right? So, how about we check in and do a quick recap of the first part of our troop, our 1s, 2s, and 3s. So, last time we were together, we talked about ways to relate and understand each type. So, here are a couple of highlights. Looking first at 1s are moral perfectionists. Their core fear is being wrong, bad, evil, inappropriate, unredeemable, and even corrupt. Where their core desire is having integrity, being good, balanced, accurate, virtuous, and right. Keeping in mind, the important part for them to help protect them is their core weakness, which is known as resentment. It's the repressing anger that leads to continual frustration and dissatisfaction with themselves, others, and the world for not being perfect. But their core longing, it is what they most want to hear, which is, you are good. So we show understanding and relatability when we respect their need for structure and order, take their personal responsibility seriously, point out how good and responsible and thorough they are. And when you're wrong, ask for forgiveness quickly, enabling for faster reconciliation. Don't we all want that? And then, of course, reminding our 1s often of your love for them. Okay, a quick recap on 2s, the giver. Their core fear is being rejected and unwanted, being thought worthless, needy, insignificant, dispensable, and unworthy of love. And on the other side of that is their core desire, which is being appreciated, loved, and wanted. And so their core weakness which is known as pride, where they deny their own needs and emotions. Utilizing their amazing intuition to discover and focus on the feelings and needs of others, they confidently insert their helpful support in hopes that others will say how grateful they are for their thoughtful care. And their core longing, what they're most wanting to hear, is you are wanted and loved. And we show understanding and relatability to them when we give them time to process their emotions and communicate their needs. When we're patient and understanding as they work things out. We engage in activities they enjoy and show genuine interest in their passions and remind them they are enough. So, how about our threes? Successful achievers. Their core fear is being exposed as or thought incompetent, inefficient, or worthless, failing to be or appear successful. So, on the opposite of that is their core desire, which is having high status and respect, being admired, successful, and valuable, which in some ways is in conflict with their core weakness, which is deceit, as in deceiving themselves into believing they are only the image they present to others, and embellishing the truth by putting on a polished persona for everyone. That's including themselves to see and admire. But then their core longing, what they long to hear, is you are loved and valued for simply being you. And we show understanding and relatability to them by acknowledging their achievements and efforts. We can encourage them to express their emotions, even offer practical support and understanding, and help them to balance work and rest by encouraging them to be their authentic selves. So last time we were together, we added to our toolbox the part of your self-care and self-love, which looks like establishing affirmations that speak life into you, where we thank the inner critic for trying to help, but consciously choosing to limit its power and authority. That we practice self-compassion and kindness, treating ourselves with the same understanding and forgiveness you would offer to a friend. And then remembering to focus on this important message. I am good enough. I am wanted and loved. I am loved and valued for simply being me. And then also prioritize your personal needs and well-being. Prioritize rest and downtime. Cultivate self-compassion and authenticity. How are those working for you? Some of this stuff is really difficult. So remember, grace, give it to yourself. It's so important. So our journey continues. So let's take a look at our Enneagram 4s, 5s, and 6s as we find ways to relate and understand each of them. So I want to start by a quick reminder of how we define relate, the word relate. As in, it's a way in which we find, show, make connection, as in showing sympathy. And then understanding as an action word. It is something that we can do through words of affirmation, truth, confidence, building, and actions like showing up for somebody, the way you help, listen, or, and this is hard, even saying nothing, just being present and sharing silent space. And finally, relate as in the way we interpret or view something in a particular way. That's a lot of information so far, but hang in there. We're going to go through the 4s, 5s, and 6s and learn ways in which we can relate and understand. So let's start with the romantic individualist, our 4s. So a quick recap on some foundational information about type 4s. So their core 4 is starting with core fear. What we are trying to prevent from happening, that's their core fear, is being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, flawed, or insignificant. Where their core desire, it's the what we strive for to bring fulfillment. Their desire is to be unique, special, and find their authentic self. But what they wrestle with, their core weakness, is envy, feeling that they're tragically flawed. Something foundational is missing inside, and others possess qualities that they lack. And the central message that their heart longs to hear, their core longing, is that you are seen and loved for exactly who you are, special and unique. So, common attributes might be interesting to learn is that they are expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. But they're also contributing to the sensitive, introspective part. And what primarily drives them is a desire for authenticity and individuality. They strive to understand themselves deeply and express their unique identity, often through creative outlets. You see, because a core fear of being ordinary or insignificant fuels this pursuit of uniqueness. 4s are self-aware, they're sensitive and reserved. They are emotionally honest, creative, and personal, but can also be moody and self-conscious, withholding themselves from others due to feeling vulnerable and defective. They can also feel disdainful and exempt from ordinary ways of living. They typically have problems with melancholy, self-indulgent, and self-pity. Something that I find interesting about 4s is that they're very romantic and place a lot of their focus and attention on their relationships and can be sensitive to others and their feelings. And when they're at their best, they're inspired and highly creative. They're able to renew themselves and transform their experiences. So when they're in a healthy space, they are very self-aware and self-revealing. They're able to communicate about their inner world in a way that helps others do the same. I love that part of how they find a way to connect. They can find rich meaning in life and experience deep emotions. They have great intuition and creativity. They enjoy being unique and seen as special by others. They can easily sense the feelings of others and support their emotions, and they can bring a great beauty, depth, and creativity to any event or situation. How's that? I love that part. So, ways to relate and even communicate with a 4. Express emotions more openly to develop a solid and meaningful relationship. I suppose we can do all these things with all people, but with 4s, particularly, we need to remember to be authentic and real, or communication, it will stall and cease to exist. We can encourage them to express their emotions with clarity and balance by mirroring back to them their beautiful reflection so they feel seen and valued. And we can express admiration and appreciation for who they are, not trying to change them. I don't know about you, but I think that this is something that, because I want to see things with people be better, sometimes I can focus on the wrong things, making it so that maybe I'm trying to change somebody. Not my intention, but because I know that things can be better, and I'm kind of a fix-it person, maybe you can relate. That's kind of where my head goes. So here's some positive affirmations for type 4. So as you're thinking about what you can say to yourself to shift that thinking from negative thinking, think about these and maybe even write it on post-it notes or put it on your phone or whatever spot that you go to often so that you can say these things and breathe them in. So here you go, fours. Affirmation. I draw on my experiences to grow. I choose to release the past. I am in the present moment. I transfer pain into power. And I am happy to be me. Those are all so powerful. And I hope that as a 4, or for anyone, that you would find ways to utilize those to build up how you see yourself. Knowing that even though life is hard and confusing, this can help shift, because what we think comes out in the way we are and how we act within our world, community, family, work. So I challenge you to try these affirmations on. Ready to move forward? Let's look at our Enneagram 5, our investigator thinker. So here's some foundational information on our type 5s. So their core 4 are starting with their core fear, which is what they're trying to prevent from happening. So they're preventing from happening this feeling of being annihilated, invaded, or not existing, being thought of as incapable or ignorant, having obligations placed upon them and their energy depleted. But on the opposite of that, their core desire is what they're striving for to bring fulfillment, which is being knowledgeable, capable, and competent. And their core weakness, what they wrestle with, it's called avarice. It's a feeling that they lack inner resources and that too much interaction with others will lead to a catastrophic depletion, withholding themselves from contact with the world, holding on to their resources and minimizing their need. Something about avarice is that it can have a negative connotation and that it's old language for greed. And if we know anything about greed, it's also in the Bible. It talks about one of the sins. And so avarice relates to greed in that it can be something that they're greedy about knowledge and time, that they want to absorb all the knowledge and create time for themselves. So moving forward with their core 4, and this is the last part, the core longing, which is the central message their heart longs to hear, which is your needs are not a problem. So here's some words that can be associated with fives: perceptive, insightful, intelligent, even detached, and isolated. But they are very perceptive and innovative observers who walk through life with curiosity and craving to learn new things. They have an inquisitive mind, which can be objective and practical, helping them to make wise decisions. So they are primarily driven by fear of being incompetent or incapable. And so this fear, it leads them to seek knowledge and understanding as a way to feel competent and prepared for the world. They are motivated by a need for autonomy and independence, and often withdraw to conserve energy and avoid feeling overwhelmed by demands from other people. Something to keep in mind about our fives is that they can be loners. They prefer to sit back and observe rather than engaging in social situations. And so, because of this, while their desire really is to have connection and companionship, they're fearful of going too deep because it causes their fear of their own needs would be too much. They might even feel that their needs are harmful to others if they actually openly express themselves. So, when fives are at their best, they remain extremely observant and have a clear, alert, and curious perspective. And they interact with people. So here's some ways to relate. And things that we can do is that we can become more independent and not clingy. We can keep conversations straightforward and to the point. Being brief is actually better for them and less exhausting to them. And we should remember to give them their own space and time and privacy so that they can recharge without interruption, because they need to recharge privately. You know how you take your phone and you plug it into the power charger in the wall, and then we leave it there and we go off and do things? Same thing with a five. We help them to have that space on their own to recharge. And when they have a need, provide them in an unobtrusive way. Asking for help is difficult for them. So it doesn't make them feel good if they have to do that. In fact, it makes them feel inadequate or even like they're intruding or taking over. So, what would it look like if you helped them in an non obtrusive way? Okay, well, you can offer specific help with tasks they may be struggling with. Instead of asking this blanket question, how can I help? Maybe you are specific, like pointing to something or establishing what they might need help with by being observant, right? So I can help with making dinner, for example. And I believe this one to be challenging for most. If they decline or seem hesitant, don't pressure them. Learn to read non-verbal cues and respect the need for space. Respect the limited internal resources they have on any given day. And remember this: surprises and intrusions will quickly drain them. Don't show up on their door. You can call them and see if they have time, but I wouldn't make it for the same day. I would plan it for another day. It gives them time to process. And finally, I believe this goes for all people, but is greater impact for a 5. Do not share with others what they have confided in private, because trust and confidentiality are extremely important to 5s. And like I said, I believe this to be true for all people. We always ask permission. Is this private or can I share it? It creates trust. It creates that understanding of this space and this person is safe. Okay, 5s, I have some affirmations for you. Now, just like I told the 4s, find a spot that you can keep these so that you can remember them and say them to yourselves. Starting with, I appreciate the awe of being in my body. I develop healthy relationships with the people around me. I am calm, serene, and at peace, even in the midst of the uncertainties of life. And finally, I experience life fully. Now, if you can't remember any of these affirmations, I just want to encourage you, come back. You can skip to this part and listen to the affirmations and write them down. If it's something that you actually need help with, reach out to me, DM me on Instagram, and I will personally send you the affirmations. So here we go. Our last one for today are Enneagram 6, the loyalists. So here's some foundational information about type 6 and their core 4. So remember, core fear is what we wrestle with. So they wrestle with feeling fear itself, being without support, security, or guidance, being blamed, targeted, alone, or physically abandoned. But what they strive for, their core desire, believing that it will bring fulfillment to them, is having security, guidance, and support. And what they wrestle with, their core weakness, is anxiety, where they're scanning their horizon of life and trying to predict or prevent negative outcomes, especially worst case scenarios, remaining in a constant state of apprehension and worry. But their core longing, this central message that their heart longs to hear, is that they are safe and secure. So here's some words to describe a 6. They're committed, responsible, faithful, suspicious, and anxious. And what primarily drives them is to be deep-seated in their need for security and support. And they seek to feel safe and prepared and part of a stable community or system. See, because this core motivation, it stems from a fear of uncertainty and a fear of being abandoned and unsupported. They're faithful, courageous, loyal, dutiful, and committed to their real source of anxiety. However, in their internal committee of voices that are constantly chiming in with these contradictory thoughts, this multitude of different possibilities, worst case scenarios, and questions causing them to second guess themselves and doubt what they know and consult others. That must be hard. That they know what they know, and yet they are in constant battle with this inner collective voice or committee. Here's something else to know about them. They are by far some of the most reliable, hard-working, steady people out there. They're dependable with a good sense of humor. They have an ability to foresee problems. They are fiercely loyal, and they're great team players. They hold groups together for the benefit of the common good. Okay, so some other things to know about sixes and ways you can relate and understand them. They're often plagued with constant internal fear and uncertainty, which can cause them to look for the dangers and become hyper vigilant, even scanning for things that could be threatening and to their safety and security. This characteristic, it helps them to avoid head-on challenges as they can assume the worst. It's like their protective skin. So what about when they're at their best? Well, they are self-affirming and courageous, trusting themselves and others. They remain enduring, warm, friendly, and playful, witty, liable, deeply engaging, and dependable. They're an advocate for those who are powerless. They're fiercely committed to their homes, jobs, communities, while striving to build stability and security. So, how can you care for a six? And I have to say that this is important for all of us, but I believe it will really speak to the six's heart. So we can be consistent and reliable by following through on your commitments. Show up when you say you will. That's a big one personally for me. If you say you're going to do something, I believe that you're going to do what you say. And I think that sixes are just like that. Now, we can also care for a six when we maintain open and honest communication. And what that looks like is being direct and clear in your communication. Avoid ambiguity. Encourage them to share their concerns and listen attentively without judgment. We can acknowledge and validate their concerns by avoiding dismissing their fears or anxieties, even if they seem irrational. We can remind them of their past successes. You see, because sixes often struggle with self-doubt. So we can remind them of a past challenge they overcame or instances of courage so that it can help build up confidence. And then lastly, we can show loyalty by being a steadfast and a supportive person in their life. Okay, sixes, let's try some of these affirmations. So again, find a spot, put it where you'll see it. Maybe write it out daily. Whatever works, find that rhythm and pattern for you so that you can really embrace these affirmations and make them a part of who you are. So here we go. I choose to trust my own inner guidance. My core is strong. The world is a safe place. And I am loyal, lovable, and dedicated. Okay, you know what time it is. Yep, that's right. We're adding to our toolbox of self-care and self-love practices and rhythms. So, a quick reminder as we learn these new self-care and self-love practices is that here at Core Motivations Podcast, we're all about Better, not perfect. Practicing something for good. Trying something and remembering that seeing it not work is not a failure, it's an opportunity. And that each of these practices and rhythms create openings to try something new and the grace to make a mistake. So, today's self care and self love practices are specifically designed to help an Enneagram 4, 5, and 6. But if you relate with them, take them, hold on to them, and as I would like to say, hitch your wagon to these and practice away. So let's get started. I read this the other day and I found it very interesting. The term self care is icky because it reduces taking care of yourself into a matter of aesthetics and convenience. The truth is, we should be in constant connection with ourselves, making sure to check in, asking the important questions, not worrying about what people think about us, taking care of our personal needs, what it looks like, and maybe recognizing that it might not be convenient for other people. But if we stop and ask ourselves, how am I today? Or maybe it's, how am I doing right now? Then it gives a chance to actually answer. And in turn, we are then able to take or make the time to reset, regroup, and recharge. Self care and self love is necessary to our health. Don't be afraid to establish that. These are healthy boundaries, and boundaries are good. It helps people know how they can operate within our space, as well as how we can operate in theirs. So, what does this look like for 4, 5s, and 6s? Okay, so 4s, the romantic individualists. And again, I just want to say and invite anyone that to put these self care, self love practices and rhythms in your toolbox and use them. Okay, so let's start with the self affirming with these words: I am loved for who I am. You can self affirm fours by saying, I am loved for who I am. Engage in mindfulness practices like meditation and yoga, which will help you connect with your body and find grounding, especially when your emotions feel overwhelming. I'm sure we can all relate. Validate and acknowledge your feelings without letting them define your identity. For example, fours, you can say, I feel sad and that's okay, but I'm not a sad person. I encourage you to remember your feelings are not who you are. They are what you are expressing based on an experience. And then fours, challenge negative self-talk. You're not the only ones. We can all experience that. So become aware of the negative self-talk and consciously reframe it into more positive and a realistic perspective. You can even write on a post-it. I use post-its a lot. I love all the colors. You can write those positive perspectives so you can remember them when you're struggling. I also wanted to give you a journal prompt, something to maybe stimulate some of these positive perspectives. And this one is interesting. What if your value to others isn't that you are different or unique, but simply because you are you? So here's your journal prompt. What if your value to others isn't that you are different or unique, but simply because you are you? Write about that. Write about what it makes you feel to hear that. It could stimulate your ways of perceiving yourself. And finally, find joy in the ordinary. Pay attention to small joys and beauty in everyday life, like the taste of food or feeling of warm water, and savoring these moments. Okay, fives, our investigator thinker. Start with a self-affirming message. My needs are not a problem. Learn to grow, not just to understand. You are fully equipped and capable of handling whatever growth may bring. Allow yourself to have alone time, whether it's sitting in nature or reading a book, but take time to recharge your battery. And remember movement as a way to reset mindful practices, to get out of your head. Try yoga, running, Tai Chi, to name a couple. Okay, and I wanted to give you a journaling prompt as well. What is something I would take action on if I was less concerned with failure? I'll read that again. What is something I would take action on if I was less concerned with failure? Give it a try. See what happens. I'd be curious to hear what you came up with. Okay, and finally, our sixes, the loyalist. Here's a self-affirming message. It's okay to trust myself. So when you're feeling anxious, try naming those fears. Speak them out loud or write them down. And then use meditation and breathing apps for cultivating silence and reversing these fears. Keep your sense of humor. Drop the self-deprecating jokes. You deserve to be your biggest cheerleader. And how about start each day by giving yourself some credit? Name 3 things you do really well and say them out loud while you're getting ready to do whatever you're doing that day. Okay, you ready for your journal prompt? Here it goes. What is something you would do if you knew it wouldn't affect anyone else or let anyone down? What is something you would do if you knew it wouldn't affect anyone else or let anyone down? Try it. See how it feels to you when you're writing things down. It might be hard. You might have some pretty big feelings about it, but try it. And if it doesn't work the first time, it's okay. Come back to it. So let's wrap up our time together. And I want to start by giving a couple shout outs to a couple people for their help with information and the foundation that they laid. Evelyn Lim, an Enneagram coach and a motivational speaker. And thank you also to Psychology Junkie. I hope you all walk away feeling like you learned something new. Maybe you recognize some of these things in yourself or others. Knowing these things can help you give grace to yourself and to those who may be reflecting some of these features of one of these types or characteristics of these types. Whether it's a core fear or a core desire, maybe it's their core longing or their core weakness. And as always, please be mindful to not self-type or type someone else. I'm here to help you with typing. So schedule a typing session with me. You can even jump over onto my Instagram and take a free assessment. And it'll kind of give you a little background in history based on the way you answer your questions. So again, you can go over to my Instagram page, leave me a message. I will answer you. So now for some legal stuff. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for medical care. The materials, movies, videos, or books referred to in the podcast are recommendations only. And the views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast host. That's me or sponsors. Join me each week as we dive into all things Enneagram, self-care ideas, self-love patterns and rhythms, share ideas from other reputable authors, doctors, and my favorite podcasters. And a big thank you to you for being here with me today on Core Motivations podcast. Now, I know you've heard me say this many times before, but truly, thanks for supporting our podcast, as it just couldn't be done without all of you. Hit the follow button and share this episode with someone. I would love to work with you either one-to-one or in a group. And if this is something you would like to know more about, DM me on Instagram or email me. You can find me, Michelle, on Instagram at coremotivations_coach or through email, michelle@coremotivationscoach.com. So let me leave you with this. Until next time, and as always, I'm rooting for you.